What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Blizzard just gave us a ton of information about Hanzo's scatter arrow replacement. It seems very likely at this point that he will be getting a new ability. Blizzard is going to be making some pretty significant changes to Hanzo very soon. We are going to get a new build of the PTR within the next couple days, but I don't think that the new Hanzo changes are going to be on it just yet. We're probably going to get the new Doomfist and Sombra changes, and maybe May, but then shortly after that we'll get the Hanzo changes. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe because anytime new important stuff like this happens, I'll be sure to tell you guys everything you need to know, so subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of it. Over on the Blizzard forums, Jeff Goodman, who is the principal designer for Overwatch, gave us a full breakdown on what they've been doing with Hanzo. So he says, "We're still working on him, so it might be a bit early to talk about where we are right now. What I can do is mention a few things we tried that haven't worked so far. That might be interesting. We tried replacing Scatter Arrow with Piercing Arrow, which was an arrow that had an extremely fast projectile speed and would pierce through enemies and barriers. This was pretty fun as a snipey arrow that you could occasionally take a super long-range shot at an enemy Widow, Pharah, or just a support in their back lines. Ultimately, though, it was pretty frustrating to be feeling safe behind a barrier and get headshot through it and die." Another thing we played with was just changing scatter significantly. The most successful version was one where it had a very fast projectile speed, could only ricochet one time, could no longer split off the floor, and had much tighter spread. This version removed the floor scatter entirely, but added some new options in either using it as a long-range sniper shot or using it more accurately off a single wall or ceiling. This one was pretty fun, but mostly just felt really hard to use consistently. There were some areas of maps where it felt useful and fun, but a lot of the time there weren't any useful surfaces around to cause a split, and using your cooldown to merely increase the projectile speed of your shot didn't feel great as a common use case. Another crazy thing we playtested a few times was a new ability bound to his reload key, which is currently unused. This ability would have a small animation delay, 2 to 3 seconds, after which your cooldowns would reset. This meant if you wanted to sacrifice some normal shots, you could forcibly reset your special arrows. This was pretty interesting when paired with the piercing arrow idea, but felt pretty crazy with sonic arrow. The idea overall wasn't bad, but I think it's shelved for now. We're still narrowing in on what broad direction to take him, and what would make you really glad to have him on your team, etc. So those are some interesting ideas, but they don't really fix the problem with Hanzo. So there are two issues with the character right now. One is for the other players. Basically, you can one-shot a tank from really far away, and that's not really a good thing to be able to do, right? Other characters like Doomfist or Reinhardt can one-shot characters, but they have to put themselves in significantly more risk to do it. For Hanzo to be able to scatter someone who's like halfway across the map, that's not really a good thing to have in the game. The other problem is for Hanzo himself, why he isn't actually used, and for some reason people don't think that his pick rate is as low as it really is, but there are plenty of places where you can go and see that he is one of the least played characters in the game, and as far as like the pro scene in the meta, Hanzo has never ever been in the meta, and he is almost completely ignored in the pro scene entirely. Here's the thing, whenever you're trying to come up with an idea for scatter arrow replacement, more damage isn't the answer, because Scatter Arrow is the most damaging ability, the best damaging ability in the entire game. So replacing it with just like a slightly weaker damaging ability isn't gonna solve anything. Now, damage as a whole has never been a problem for Hanzo. He can easily put out a truckload of damage. The problem the character has always had is with survivability. Other characters in the DPS slots haven't had the same kind of problems that Hanzo does. Most of the characters like McCree or Soldier stay relatively close to the tanks and healers, so that way they always have that kind of support. Other characters like Genji, Tracer, and Reaper have really good escape mechanisms, so they can kind of take care of themselves, and Pharah is always up in the air. Even Widowmaker has a pretty decent escape mechanism. If she gets dived on, she can just grapple away and then try to reset the situation. But Hanzo, all he has is the wall climb, and that's not really going to work against the main characters that go after him, namely D.Va, Winston, and Genji. If Hanzo wall climbs, they're just going to go right after and follow him. I don't think giving him a different kind of damage ability is going to solve any of his problems. I think he needs to have either some sort of disengage, an escape mechanism of some kind. I'm not saying give him like Wraith Form or Fade or nothing, just maybe something that kind of lets him, put a little bit of distance between him and whoever is trying to attack him. You could also try to give him something like what I suggested before, which is like a claw arrow or a net, where it would very quickly immobilize an enemy, but they could still attack. It wouldn't be like a full stun. They would be able to attack you. They just couldn't move for a couple seconds. So think something along the lines of Junkrat's Trap. Or maybe even give him some kind of knockback effect, like Drow Ranger from Dota 2. She has a Gust ability that pushes everybody away. Now, it would be similar, but not exactly the same to Lucio's. You don't want too much overlap. But, again, the idea is to just kind of give him a little bit more space to work with. And of course, if you remove the scatter, that means you can also start bumping up his regular attack a little bit more. I don't know if increasing the damage would be good, probably more along the lines of attack speed. For now, I'm gonna think about this a little bit more. But what kind of new ability would you guys like to see Hanzo get? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out my Discord server. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter. The links for that stuff is down below. Thanks for watching. Remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.